Scars and Spikes match reaction podcast. As Atlanta United falls Tyler Pilgrim to FC Cincinnati 2-0 in the season opener for both teams in MLS action. Sydney with you, Tyler with you, Tommy perhaps, Henry unfortunately unable to make it for this episode. Tyler, what's up?
Hola.
Hola.
I'm disappointed, but we'll
Yeah.
move. It's game one of the season. Lots of changes still incoming. I mean, I really, really wanted Atlanta to win that game.
Yeah.
Really wanted them to at least score a goal, but it's not all doom and gloom.
From a neutral standpoint, I do have to say this. First off, TKO Stadium, beautiful ground. Cincinnati, great city. If you ever have the chance to go, definitely go. Second part of that, hopefully Evander is okay. You never want to see an opponent go down in the way that he did. I mean, it wasn't like he was like in dire straits or anything like that, but suffers that muscle injury, has to come off. Sounds like, according to Pat Noonan, it's not serious. He's going to get looked at, but from a neutral standpoint, from an MLS standpoint, just a dynamic player. You kind of love to see him when he's not hurting Atlanta United. I don't want to not hurting your team, but yeah, just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned. It was maybe a hamstring thing, and they weren't going to know for sure yet until they do the scans, which I'm sure will be tomorrow. Never want to see it. From a purely Atlanta standpoint, I wish that they had kind of taken that moment where the air gets taken out of the stadium and ran with it a little more than they did. And I'm not saying take advantage of a guy that got hurt. Right. Take advantage of the state of the game, though. And I just don't really feel like Atlanta did a great job of that last night in general. But I was really, kind of thinking like, all right, well, you never want to see this, because me and Tommy got on a whole thing last night on the other watch along for the LA Miami match about how this league needs other stars, and Evander's one of those guys. Whether you like him or not, he's a guy who he's putting up numbers nonstop, and the league is better when he's in it. So never want to see that kind of thing happen, but I do wish Atlanta had taken a little more advantage for sure.
Yeah, and again, you do hope, Evander's okay as a star in this league, like you said. But from a larger standpoint, Atlanta United, of course, losing 2-0, and we'll of course talk about that here on this episode. You had some news come out, Tyler. I don't know if we want to hit on that right off the top, but another potential midfielder, maybe we could hit it super quickly. Another potential midfielder, Francisco Cristaldo from Grêmio in the Brasileirão, the first division of Brazil. Perhaps coming, Tyler, to MLS, going to Atlanta United.
Yeah.
$4 million valuation, I think I saw on Transfer Market a little bit earlier.
Yeah. 91st percentile. So read that as the top 9% in attacking midfielders or central midfielders. He plays both. Depending on where you look, though, I mean, he definitely has played as a number 10 more often than not. But,
number 10, you say?
Yeah, I know, right?
Nudge.
But I think it's one of those as well, though, that if you kind of look at his profile and look at the way that he plays, he really could fit in kind of anywhere down that spine. Do I think they're going to bring in this guy and use him as a 6? No, I don't. But I think they are going to, if this does come to fruition, and I'll give my opinion and educated opinion on that in a minute. But I think he comes in and he becomes, just more of a playmaker, so that you can get somebody that's locked in at that position, so that you can then stop worrying about where am I going to field Miguel Almiron? Where am I going to field whoever happens to still be here at the time? So, but yeah, I mean, as far as a player, creative guy, creative playmaker, and I think it'll be interesting to kind of see how this one unfolds.
Doesn't Atlanta already have a number 10, though, Tyler?
I think Atlanta has a couple
more than one.
Yeah.
No, but I say that tongue in cheek, because obviously you think about Miranchuk and what his future is with the club. I mean, he started on the bench, for crying out loud, this evening. So, or this evening, Saturday evening. So I don't know what that tells you about Alexei Miranchuk. But I know you were thinking, you wrote it on scarsandspikes.com, you're thinking buyout, perhaps, for a player. And I know we've been talking about buyout we've seen a couple interesting buyouts over the past couple of days. Christian Ramirez out in LA, LA Galaxy, Sam Vines getting bought out um, by the Colorado Rapids. So some interesting. It is buyout season. These teams try to finagle with their budget and try to get themselves in the more favorable budget position. I feel like Atlanta was always going to buy a player out. We don't know who it is at this point, but I mean, I can get some names, right?
Could throw a few out
I
there for sure.
could throw a few out there. I mean, you mentioned Moranchuk. Do you just eat the? Do you just bite the bullet and bite him out, considering what he hasn't been able to do? Tristan Muimba, player that has underperformed over the past couple of years. Deion Gregerson, good player, but has just struggled to stay healthy. Has underperformed his contract for that very reason. Maybe another name that we haven't mentioned. I kind of feel like we're kind of on the same wavelength here as far as yeah, this buyout being used, possibly opening up a spot for Cristado, maybe a Galazzo Fonda, who we'll mention, I'm sure, in a little bit. But I feel like we're kind of on the same wavelength, and we don't know what Henderson is thinking. But I guess what's your opinion on the situation?
Yeah, I mean, so in the chat, passionate footballer saying Gregerson and Muyamba. I think those are two definitely names that they've got to be tossed around. I think Moranchuk it just naturally has to be tossed around because of reasons that we've beat to absolute death on this show, as have all other pundits and journalists and outlets covering this team in general. But I mean, yeah, ultimately that's what a buyout's for, right? That you kind of have to just bite the bullet, but you do it because you're trying to make the roster better. And what you have at the moment is not working, and you have to be able to move on. So that kind of leads me to this. I'll throw this out there. Zach asking, any chance Doug is wrong and both come? I will tell you right now, and I'm not saying Doug is wrong. It is not guaranteed that both don't come. And in fact, I put out on Twitter earlier, there is a world where both of them do play for this team.
Mm.
That being said, I would not at all expect both of them to be here in this window.
Yeah.
Not saying that 100% because of the aforementioned buyouts. Atlanta has their buyouts. They could use them. But while it is surprising that, in my opinion, they haven't used a buyout yet, it's not surprising if they used only one and saved the other one.
Mm.
So, no, I think like what Doug put out, recently, and then what I put out like earlier today, it's the implication is essentially you're going to put everything you can into getting one or the other. And right now, admittedly, the likelihood is rolling towards Galarza, who we'll talk about here in a second.
Yeah.
But I think there is a world where both of these players end up playing for Atlanta United
Someday.
Maybe sooner than later, but we'll see.
Yeah.
A lot of things can happen because that's the other thing. As far as the report, the ball is literally in Gremio's court. So Gremio can accept the formal offer and they could say, hey, let's do it. And then guess what has to happen?
Mm.
Probably a buyout.
Yeah.
So you don't go and use the buyout until you know for sure you got a player coming in, right?
Yeah.
If that's the case, like Christian Ramirez is different. Like I think they actually used the buyout at Friday before the deadline, and it just really got announced, I guess, today or whenever it was. But yeah, I mean, in Passionate Football, we'll talk about kind of the comparison. But yeah, I do think there is a world where they both could be here. Not saying it's going to happen for sure, but it's not ruled out.
Well, let's back up. I mean, you mentioned Doug's tweet. Doug saying that Atlanta will attempt to sign one of the two players that they're currently linked with, of course, Galeza Fonda and Cristado. That's according to what he says, a person with knowledge of the situation. So I can see what you're saying, where you're saying, hey, they might not be coming in the same window, but that doesn't mean they won't be playing at the same time for Atlanta. And I feel like I agree with you saying that it might be Galazza that's coming over first because it's a loan. It's a loan with an option to buy. So you're not tied to him, right, for a extended length of time. where you would be with Cristaldo, right? Where it seems like that would be a straight purchase for, I assume, what, 2 to 3 years or something like that. That's just a guess that I'm throwing out there. But I feel like I agree. Where I feel like they'll both be on this team. Having said that, you need to clear up some space. I'll just say this too. Of course, if you buy out Moranchuk, does that necessarily mean that Cristado is a DP? I don't know if that is. Maybe he still have. I mean, what do you think? Do you think he is a high down player or a DP?
I
I
mean,
don't think he's a DP.
I think you could make it work, and I'm not gonna sit here and try to pretend like I've done all the math on
Yeah,
this because trying to do that is a fool's errand, especially when you
yeah,
don't even know where you're starting. But you gotta think about how much of a buyout that would be, how much space and everything else that would clear up, and what they would be able to use it for. It's just so hard to say, but I do think there is a possibility you can maybe finagle like a high TAM type deal, especially for a guy who has not been getting the minutes I think that he wants and probably that he's worth, because
Mhm.
I would caution anybody against looking at any incoming South American not named either Thiago Almada or Lionel Messi and look at the comments section related to that player at their current club, because it's just it's not gonna do you any good. It's not gonna be very honest about, like, the player. Look at what happened with a guy like Luis Arujo when he left here. Think about all the crap he got from
Yeah,
fans here, and then he goes back to Brazil and
kills it.
absolutely destroys. So, um, yeah, I think as far as the valuation with Galarza, I don't see a world after the loan where you can't make that work,
Right.
like, as a DP just because 'cause they're asking so much. But with Cristaldo, and I kinda I don't know, I get a little more excited about Cristaldo, just I think because he's the playmaker type guy, whereas Galarza, and this goes back to the question that was asked earlier, he's a little bit more of a defensive mid, a little bit more of like a
Mhm.
straight up midfielder that's just gonna, like, hold it down and bulldog, whereas, Cristaldo's gonna be more front facing, attack
Yeah,
oriented, creating a lot of chances,
yep.
91st in chances created, 91st percentile in chances created. So, like, 2 different players, but I d I don't know that you aren't able to get away with not using a DP tag on one or the other.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. If you can get a high damn deal for both, right? I mean, you got
I mean, you
DP
can do
slot
that, you
available,
can
and
take it
you're
all
like
day.
living large, really.
Yeah, it's just so hard to say because,
Mm,
you gotta figure out, like, the space and then, like, they get brought in and then bought down, kinda like what's happened with Gregerson and Saba and a handful of other Sleesh, a handful of players, because you could bring them in, at a certain amount, and then you can buy down a lot of that, and then they're not on a DP deal anymore. They're just on a TAM deal. So it might be one of those where temporarily they have to be listed as a DP, but not for long.
mhm.
I that part is so hard to guess, but I'm sure we'll learn more as we
Yeah.
hear more about kind of what the contract situation is looking like.
And just quick on Cristaldo, it looked like TFC was looking to sign him, right? I feel like them signing Sargent really put them out of the running for Cristaldo. That's my guess. Or
Yeah,
they just were able to come to terms with Gremio on what that contract would look like with them at TFC.
yeah, it kind of feels like with them, they I think they really wanted Sargent from the get go anyway.
Yeah.
Um, for some weird reason. This is nothing against Josh Sargent, but dude, 20 something $1,000,000, like, I'm sorry, but that's a lot
Phew.
of freaking money. Um,
Yeah.
It just blows my
Not
mind.
our money though.
Exactly. Um, so, yeah, I mean, if that's who they really wanted, and it just feels like that's who they were obsessed with getting, but you can't in soccer, in business, you can't just go and say, "Alright, that's the guy I'm getting come, hell or high water no matter what."
Mhm.
You gotta have backups even if you really want that guy, and I feel like for them, Cristaldo was maybe that one of those options just in case Josh Sargent fell through
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
that
So,
makes sense.
I don't know, we'll see, but by all accounts, both seem like really good players that could make this team just straight up better the moment they step in.
Yeah, Steven saying in the chat, watching on YouTube, he thinks Cristaldo will be great for Latte Lot, and then he's saying very interested in the economic chess around this. I mean, It's not our money. We're not in the front office. We're not front office or MLS rules experts, but Atlanta United will make it work somehow if they want to bring both of those players on board. Do you want to talk about, since we've talked about now Cristado and the latest on Gallardo Fonda, do you want to talk about the match,
Yeah,
the loss to
let's
FC
dive in.
Cincinnati? Cooper Sanchez. I mean, let's talk about Cooper Sanchez right off the top. We were let's think about our collective reactions when we saw that Cooper was going to be starting in the 11. Not like anybody expected it, even with Will Riley being out.
Not on my bingo
Even
card.
no, even with Moranchuk, who we learned it was just who we learned it was just him recovering from his injury. I don't know if there's anything more to that. We'll see, but I liked him. I liked what he brought to the table. I liked his the way he was able to press defenders. There's a play in the 17th minute that I really liked. Cincinnati had the ball in their own half. They were trying to push the ball forward. Brian Ramirez from Cincinnati tries to send the ball toward the middle of the park to Samuel Gidi, and Gidi has the ball, and Sanchez just reacts so well to get his mark on Gidi and does just enough to body Gidi off the ball, knock the ball out for a throw in, and force Cincinnati to restart. So I feel like little plays like that, Tyler, are what sort of it looks easy in real time. It looks it's just so easy, but the reaction time and the concentration and the awareness you need to kind of make those decisions stands out. Was he perfect? Absolutely not. I mean, he's 17. He was playing for the twos last year, for goodness sakes. And he had a little time, right, with the first team last year. But this was his first big moment outside of the Miami match where he started, where Atlanta were well the playoffs by that point. Much different story. And yeah, plays a decent match in about 75 minutes before he gets waived for William Ba. I liked him.
Yeah, I was
It's a good debut. Well, not
100%.
debut, but good appearance.
I mean, essentially a debut. I was thoroughly impressed with
That was
him.
right.
It's one of those situations where, yeah, you go back to how we all kind of guessed the lineup was going to come out yesterday. And then actually, man, Brett's he's on one tonight. He's reading my mind. This is what I was going to bring up.
Well, he's talking about preseason.
I know
You know,
this kind of
yeah,
ties into that. Tyler,
yeah.
he said, Tyler, anything in the preseason game you saw in Texas that would have pushed Coop over Muyemba? So actually, I put in my article from that preseason game. I asked Muyemba about Cooper Sanchez because in the middle of the game, Cooper Sanchez, I forget what minute it was, but in the second half, he got put in, and I remember seeing him playing against the Red Bulls, and the lineup that the Red Bulls put out, it was very much a good mixture of their starting lineup essentially and not.
Mhm.
It wasn't front loaded or back loaded one way or the other. So he's going up against, grown men and guys that are veterans of the league. And he was absolutely like fun to watch. And not
Yeah,
not perfect, like you said. He
no,
made the occasional mistake, but what soccer player doesn't? Like you looked at if you didn't know Cooper Sanchez in that preseason game, you would be like, "Oh, that he's got to be 23, 24." I mean, he's been around it a little bit. He looks like he's mature. Then you find out his age, and you're like, "Wow,
yeah,
that's pretty wild." I feel the same way about what we saw last night. He got thrown into the lineup, and I thought, yeah, it's a sink or swim moment for sure, but that
mhm.
happens. One, it tells you Tata's not afraid to play the kids because I
Yeah.
know that was a little bit of a worry of some people this time. He started
Miles
Cooper
Robinson.
Sanchez. Yeah. Um, but I thought Cooper was fun to watch. I thought he was very aggressive in midfield. I thought he stood up for himself. I thought he played big boy football.
Yep.
And yeah, I think some of that did come from just his preseason. That Texas game is just a little bubble of what actually happened, and I tried to give y'all as much coverage as that as
Mhm.
I could. Cooper Sanchez, he was called out by Tristan Muyemba. So to see him start over Tristan, and I said Tristan had a good preseason too.
Mhm.
Um, it was shocking, but in a good way, because look, for all the good things I've said about Tristan Muyemba in this preseason going into this game, he's still on the back of 2 really tough years, like, really tough years, and so if you have the opportunity and you trust a guy like Cooper Sanchez to go in and have those minutes, man, give it to him. Give it to him. It's early in the season. This was already an uphill battle anyway, but let him
Mhm.
go in there and just say, "Hey, dude, hostile environment, opening day. Let's see what you got." And I thought he did really well.
I thought the yell that he got, I thought it was a good attempt for ball. I
Yeah,
really did. But it just shows you, though, Tyler, that he's not afraid to get stuck in. He's not afraid to make that tackle that, you know, many, not many, but some maybe are a little bit afraid to make because it might see them get booked. It might see them get a red card. But I thought it was a good attempt on ball. I don't remember who it was that he
yeah.
tackled, but I don't know if it deserved a yellow. But it just shows you the type of player that he is and the type of profile that he can bring to this team. And I'll read off what Tata Martino said about him. He said he's someone. I asked him about Sanchez at the press conference, post match press conference, and he said he's someone who helps us press very well, whether it's man to man or covering the spaces that we need to cover in those moments. He's a very technical player, so it's normal that at his young age that he's giving into some of the older players in terms of being a protagonist on the field, but. We think he has the abilities and the technique to be able to take on more of a protagonist role in their midfield. But then, like you were saying too, he was talking about he Sanchez had shown enough where Martino was ready to give him that start right off the bat. And he said, quote, direct quote, we felt that he was ready to play. Right. So that just shows you the trust that he's been able to build with Tata and just weeks of being together. Right. And look, Sanchez isn't just a new kid on the block. He's affected he's a mainstay on the US U17s, has played in the U17 World Cup. So he's had plenty of international experience, of course, experience with the twos, brief experience in MLS a couple of times. I feel like he can only go up from here as he continues to learn the game, as he continues to adjust to a professional level or first team level, I should say, the speed, the technicality, the physicality that he didn't see down with Atlanta United too. And how much time he'll get is the big question. Is Tata going to continue to give him that time that I think he deserves? That's the big question. But yeah, it's a solid first start. Now, when Riley comes back, when Moranchi comes back, does like I said, Sanchez still get that time? We'll see.
It's interesting because they're 2 different players, you know? And then you throw Jay Fortune into the mix.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, but they're all 3 different. I think you could have a halfway decent world where you just had the trio, the young guy trio on the pitch.
Yeah.
Now, is that what they're gonna do? No. Do you probably ever see that? No, probably not. But I think they all have pretty high ceilings in terms of where they can go. But Cooper had his opportunity last night, and I feel like he grabbed it and ran with it. I don't see any reason right now, as it stands, for you to necessarily swap that. I mean, look, from what I saw in the preseason with Miyamba, if he played like that, which has been a problem, yeah, I would have liked to have seen him maybe get a few more minutes other than that final 15 or whatever he had. But man, like it's hard to sit there and say like Cooper did anything to not have another go at it.
Do you loan? I just thought of this, by the way. Do you loan him out maybe to a USL Championship club or something like that, just so he doesn't get trapped behind, you know, players that you just mentioned, Fortune, Alzate, Muyumba, I mean, Gil even. What do you think? Do you loan him or try to get a loan deal for him?
Man, it's hard to say. I think part of if you could throw this in the loan deal that he was guaranteed to play like, I don't know, 80% of the games or 80% of the minutes, then I think it would be worth it because and I'm gonna be honest with you, I would try to get him outside of the country. I would try to get him into um kind of like the Tyler Wolf loan a few years ago to Belgium,
Yeah.
something like that to where
Does he have a passport is the question though.
that
But
well, that's
turning
for
turning 18, he
he,
should
the
have no
club,
problem
and the
soon.
parents to figure I don't
Yeah.
know.
He'll be 18 soon, so it shouldn't be much of a problem.
Yeah, but it would be interesting, and I think if you could guarantee him just getting a new vibe, um, man, send him to a team that has a coach that Tata Martino is like, "Oh, yeah, that's a good one," and just let him get kind of that similar experience, but not directly under Tata for a little bit.
Mm.
I think that could do really well, but I wouldn't just do a loan for the sake of doing a loan.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's Cooper Sanchez. Liked what we saw from him. I think everyone can agree that he had a good game. We got to talk about, of course, Elias Baez. We got to talk about Thomas Jacob. Got to talk about Latte a lot and Sava as well. Maybe Miggy. But do you want to talk about Patreon first and our
Yeah.
website? Scarsandspikes.com is your source for Atlanta United news, analysis, and opinion. It was good to be there at TKL Stadium covering the match live for Scarves and Spikes. Spoke to Tata. I mentioned his comments about Cooper Sanchez. That's on the website. Had a chance to talk to Tomas Jacob as well. Had a chance to talk to NMBI. So had a chance again to give coverage there on site from TKL Stadium at scarvesandspikes.com. Stay with us all throughout the season, of course. If you want to help us do more of that, travel matches, travel away matches, and boost our coverage. It's a World Cup year too. If you want to help us expand our coverage, enhance our coverage, patreon.com/scarves and spikes is the place to do that. We have a $5 tier. We have a $10 tier. We were doing a Patreon watch along for the Atlanta Cincinnati match. So that was great. Saw a big turnout, Tyler. I was peeking in there. It looked like a lot of people showed up to that.
Yeah,
But those were but those were all Patreon backers. So patreon.com/scarves and spikes is where you can go to support us, support the work we do. We're an independent outlet. We're not owned by a big company or anything like that. So we can't write off like $1,000 checks or
It would be
anything like
nice.
that.
It would be
It'll
nice
be
if we could
nice.
do all that, but no.
If someone is out there that has can write us a check for
Private jet.
5 figures, 6 figures,
And the gas
I
to
mean,
go with it.
we
Pilot.
would. Yeah, we wouldn't say no. We wouldn't necessarily turn that down. but no, patreon.com/scarves and spikes. And also Tyler at scarvesandspikes.com. People can donate, one time. When they donate 5, 10, 20,
Yeah, we've got
50.
lots of big
Yeah.
surprises, big neat things coming out. Some of the Patreon folks have already seen it, and we've got other stuff
Yeah.
too. But yeah, we're busy. Lots of stuff going on for sure.
Indeed. Let's talk about Elias Baez and Tomas Jacob, which I thought, for the most part, well, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. How do you think they did? How do you think they did in the time that you saw them?
I thought they did really well. I think I'll give you more analysis than that. Thomas Jacob, I saw what I expected out of Jacob after seeing him in the Lexington match and then seeing him again for a lot of the match in Dallas. What they did in Dallas, that was what they tried to do last night, and they got stuffed.
Mhm.
And I think it's, in my opinion, it's easier to write that off too. There still needs to be a little bit more time. Yes, some tweaking. And I think Brett maybe asked it, or somebody asked it back in the chat earlier, but does Jakob stay as a 6? And the plan, I don't think, was ever for him to stay as the 6. The
No,
plan was
no,
for him to be there if needed, and kind of swap in and out, do what he has to do. But I think the spot was really for him to really push for that right back, with Ronald, which is why you're seeing all these midfield rumors now. So, but I think he does well. I think he does well at the 6. I think, I saw something come up about his passing percentage earlier, and that's definitely fair for most of the team. But also, I think he and Cooper Sanchez were really, really trying to do what Tata Martino wants, which is the quick transitions. You get the ball in midfield, you create a turnover in midfield. That should be like the fat lady singing for teams playing against Atlanta. You look at what LAFC did, same exact game plan almost last night. So yeah, these midfielders, they're trying to create turnovers, they're trying to pass the ball quickly. And man, I think Jakob had one, Cooper Sanchez had one, I think Miggy had one, somebody else had one, but through balls that they were trying to hit to Latte Lath, and they just, since he defended them really well and just stuffed every single one of them. But Jakob was doing that. He was trying. Defensively, I don't think he was bad. And then Baez was the big wild card last night. We had seen nothing of Elias Baez at all.
Yeah.
And he steps in, and he looked like a very talented player who just got off a plane. I think he made some really great saves, and he did a lot of work defensively. He wasn't perfect, but if that's what you get out of this guy when he's been here for just a handful of days and he got thrown into the this starting lineup, then what do you expect to see out of him after he's been here for a little bit?
Yeah.
He's highly rated for a reason, and so I mean, I liked for the most part what I saw out of him. It wasn't. Yeah, I'm gonna just keep saying this, but it wasn't perfect.
Trying to remember who played that ball in to Latte Lot in the I think it was first or second half. I forget which, but I know the player you're talking about. Gray saying in the chat that Hucko was relentless. He is the first true destroyer we have had in the midfield since Jeff Lorenowitz. Yeah, I liked what I saw from Tomas Hucko. Even with him not playing in the position, like you said, he wasn't necessarily being brought into play, which is why I'm kind of like, I hear all the complaints about Ramon Hernandez. Why is he playing at right back and so on and so forth? It's only meant to be a temporary situation, right? Where you have Jacob at the 6 and then Hernandez at right back until you're able to bring in somebody at that midfield that push Jacob back to over to his supposedly preferred spot at right back, right? So, but what do we mention, Tyler, when Atlanta first signed him? His versatility, his ability to play not just at right back, which we haven't really seen yet, but his ability to play at the 6, at that midfield, that holding midfield, more defensive minded midfield spot. I know we kind of joke that Chris Henderson said he could play winger as well. Hopefully, we never get to that point where we see Tomas Jacob have to play a winger, because we'll know that Atlanta will be in big trouble. But I think that's a testament to the kind of player that Jacob is, just the ability to play a position that I'm not going to say it's not his natural position, but it's not his preferred position, right? And the fact that he's been able to step in and do well at that number 6 spot has, really impressed me, really impressed a lot of Atlanta United fans. I'm sure Baez, again, out for a good portion. And yeah, like you said, coming in from Amador, who has been dealing with green card stuff. He has his green card, so he's going to get that squared away, but wasn't able to train with the team, of course, while he's over in Portugal. So Baez steps in. The only thing I saw, and I feel like, I don't know if you agree, I feel like in the second half, just tired legs. Echenike is like the Energizer Bunny. I
Yeah,
forget who was
yeah,
saying that, but I think it was Henry, but the guy is just so dynamic for FC Cincinnati. And I saw an FC Cincinnati fan say, I think it was on X, that now that FC Cincinnati has a winger, they could be in big trouble, because now you have Denke, you have Echenike, you have Evander at the middle of the pitch. You have 3 really good players where they could be very lethal on the attack. And sure enough, you see Echenike find Denke in the box on the nice cross, and Denke makes no mistake atoning for the post he hit earlier the night. But yeah, I think I was a little hard on Baez, I think, last night, that I should have been, but I think it's just you have to look at the talent of the player that he's playing against, right, and say, you did all you could. I don't think he did anything wrong, right, in that goal that Atlanta United gave up, that first goal to Denke. It was just the skill and the speed of Echenike.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all it was, I
I
feel
think
like.
that's a lot of it. And again, the dude, he's hasn't been off the plane that long. This is new territory, and
Mm.
I feel like what you saw positively out of him, to me, outweighs any potential problems. I think the moments you saw that he could defend 1v1 well, you saw that he could be a part of, especially in the early part of the game, keeping up with the best of them. But I do think, and this is seen a lot and mentioned as recently as last night with your stuff, your article and everything, but it is a physical league, Major League Soccer.
Mhm.
It is not something that you can look at the street fights that you have down in South America and some of the no calls you get in like the Premier League or whatever, but you add in the travel and then admittedly inconsistent refereeing at times too, and you never know what you're going to get. And you would come expecting one thing, you get off the plane, then you fly up to Cincinnati, get off
Yeah.
that plane, and then you're told, all right, here we go. And suddenly, yeah, you're racing the Energizer Bunny at the end of the match. And it's like, dude, this is tough.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at that. It
No.
I think there's more positive there for sure.
You mentioned, the travel. I saw this post on X. I think it was, like, Maidenhead, I forget who the other club, but they're saying it's the longest road trip in English
Yeah,
football, 900 miles round trip. I'm like, "You go 900 miles, right, to go to Miami."
right. One
LA
of
United LA United's about to hop on a plane in a few days and go across the country for a 5,000-mile round trip, so
Yep.
but, no, you mentioned just the physicality and the type of league that MLS is. Actually, I asked Tomas Jacob about that. We spoke to him last night. He said it's the most physical league that he's played in. And granted, his career is much younger. He hasn't been around super long, but you look at a player like Jacob, who, even at 21, has played in with Newell's down there in the Argentinian league, with Necaxa, I'm sorry, down in Liga MX. I still can't pronounce that, but he's been exposed to a couple of leagues right off the bat early on in his career. Now he's at MLS, which is a more of a parody league, right? There's not, well, I will say Miami is kind of running the show right now, but year after year after year, it's not just one club every season, single season. We've talked about this, winning the league over and over again. There's parity, there's competitiveness. I mean, I didn't travel all kinds of places all the time. And Jacob, you can, even after 90 plus minutes of his first official MLS match, he's already saying it's just tough. It's he said a league with a lot of transitions, the level is very high, so you have to adapt. And over time, I'm sure he will. Over time, as he builds that chemistry, as he builds those connections with his teammates, I think he'll be a good player for this team, whether it's at the six or right back, wherever he plays. Just
Yeah.
not winger.
Yeah. No, I think overall, your 2 main new signings, um, I think they gave a good account of themselves last night for sure. I'm not
Mhm.
upset with them.
And Hoyos. Let's throw Hoyos in there as well.
I
Hoyos
gotta
is, yeah. Go
I I
ahead.
gotta I gotta throw this out there for us because I've heard really, like, both sides of the argument here.
Mm.
You can't put anything on OS. I really don't think you
No.
can. Um, the second goal, I mean, it's a corner that's not defended well. The first one, this came up in our Discord earlier. The question
Mm.
was, would Jaden Hibbert have saved that? And the argument being that Jaden Hibbert is taller than Oyos. Alright, I mean, it's fair, it's fair. But then
Yeah,
you have to imagine Oyos and Jaden Hibbert having the same soccer brain, and I'm not saying Jaden wouldn't do this, but
mhm.
a guy with as much experience as Lucas Oyos would absolutely lay out again,
Yeah.
fish dive, and then start army crawling to do everything he can to cut off that angle. He never overcommitted at all.
Mhm.
And Denke, being a great star and doing what he should as a striker, is super patient to pull the trigger, waits until he's fully around Oyos. That's what a veteran does.
Yeah.
Jaden Hibbert, if he's put in that same position, does he think that way? Or
You don't
being
know that,
younger
yeah.
and less
Yep,
experienced, does he rush out a little too hard? And I can't answer that. I don't know. You
yep.
can't put them both in the same place. But that's my argument against saying that any of this was Oyos' fault. Like, I don't think a goalkeeper in the world really just wins that without luck.
No.
So,
He's doing it on essentially, what, one leg? I mean, he just had knee surgery,
yeah,
like, what, 14 months ago? Let's not
yeah.
forget that, but I feel like the argument about, "Oh, Hibbert would have gotten to that," is people trying to justify that Hibbert should get the start 24/7 or all games, and
Like
Steven
Steven
saying in the
saying.
yeah, Steven saying in the chat he likes Hoyos, he just was jaded to get time and experience, which I think everybody agrees
And that's
with, but
yeah, it's fair.
yeah, but, let's not make this, uh I mean, well, it kinda is a Oilers versus Hibbert kinda situation, but let's not make this like, "Oh, you're wrong if you want Jada Hibbert to start. You're wrong if you want Lucas Oilers to start." Oilers has the experience, and, I do worry about the leg. I do worry, like a lot of fans do, that, he hadn't played, for a while before, his start on, in a competitive match. He hadn't played or he hadn't started for like 14 months or over a year. But yeah, I was just watching the goal back, Tyler, and no, I agree. There's not much he could do. I mean, he's already sprawled out, and like you said, no way he can get to Denke in that situation. So I don't think blaming Oyos in that situation does us any good. It's just a well taken opportunity by an experienced striker in Kevin Denke, who had a chip on his shoulder. He hit a post dead on earlier in the match.
I know,
That
that was wild.
should have been 1-0. I remember watching from the press box. I'm like, this is a goal.
Yeah,
And then he just hits the post and
and
just,
then collapsed. He was so upset.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, "Oh, man, this I guess that's it. It was a good run, guys.
Yeah.
2026 started off for a little bit okay."
Yeah.
But no, um, that out of all the and to be fair, out of all the feedback that we've heard, like, not a lot of people are just nobody's going in on Oyos. I think people are
Right.
just like, he should have done better, or they want Jaden in that spot, which is fair. That's why they're here. That's why they're doing this. So yeah, I'm not upset at it.
Yeah. So we talk about Dick K. Do we want to talk about Latte Lot? Do you want to talk about Leonard United's
Yeah,
attack?
let's go.
Saba, we can talk about him. We can talk about Miggy. We can talk about Latte Lot. I feel like you needed more. You need a lot more. And I feel like he had some opportunities. Miggy had a great chance in the box that he missed on. The one I feel like the flashpoint that people are talking about is collision between Latte Lot and Celentano in the box in the second half. That some thought should have been a penalty. Tata was asked about after the match. He said it was called offside. They were told if it wasn't offside, it would have been potentially called a penalty. Thing is, I'm surprised that they get looked at. But I was assuming with the offside, players just did it after that, which
That's it,
I don't
and
know,
that's
which
what
is which is a
because
weird,
you can't review the offside call,
yeah,
in
yeah,
that case. So,
not a game changing play.
yeah, so because the thing that you could review happened after the thing that called the play dead
Yeah,
that you can't review,
yeah,
it just canceled. We there was another one like this that we talked about last year, and I can't remember what game it was, but it was similar. It was like, we should be able to just, follow the whole way through, but you can't once something happened in that play where it's dead, it doesn't matter what happens after.
mhm,
And I to be f and I'll throw this out there. I think had it been looked at, it coulda gone either way. I'm not saying it was stone cold.
yeah.
Um,
I thought if there was no offside, I thought there was definitely something in it. Fortunately, no one got seriously injured. Fortunately, Leti Lat, who
yeah,
has had a concussion history last year, didn't get hurt.
and thankfully, he didn't puncture anybody's lung again.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Got booed all throughout the match,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny.
It got brought
But
up because we
yeah,
all said the other day with, Nate,
with Nate, yeah,
I was like, "Do you think he's gonna get booed?" And we were like, "No, I don't think
not
so."
really, yeah.
Nope, the
Sure
moment
enough.
he got that first touch, you could hear it on the broadcast. It was so funny.
As soon as he was announced in the stadium during the starting 11, you could hear the boos from the crowd. But,
Yep,
from an on-field standpoint, obviously the questions are out there for Latte Lot going in 2026, and the expectations are there for Latte Lot going into 2026. As soon as we say that, bar none, 2026 has to be a better year. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. If we don't see significant improvement with Latte Lot um, by the next window, I feel like you have no choice but to part ways with them. Same with Moranchuk if he's still here. You have no choice because you can't continue to have players on your roster that aren't producing, that aren't scoring goals for you, excuse me, who aren't doing the things they need to do to um, capitalize. That goes for Saba too. I know we're talking about Latte a lot, but that goes for Saba. Saba, he's getting paid too much money for him to not take his chances. I mean, he's not a striker, but he's getting paid too much money to be anonymous, have no effect on the game, really. Latte Lot, he's getting paid too much money to not finish his chances. Miguel Marone, he brought him in to help, elevate this attack, even though he's older at an older stage of his career, at the downturn of his career. I'm not saying you need to get rid of him, but at what point? Yeah, I know it's match 1 of 34, but at what point do you start asking questions about Biggie and saying, "Hey, we may have to." It's early, but maybe we need to kind of think about our future with him at in the DP slot. It's early, which I don't
Yeah, I
wanna
mean,
I don't wanna throw that argument out right now because it seems premature, but I mean, at some point, at what point do you get there, right?
I think at some point during the preseason, I got asked this question, and my answer was, um, you give them at least until the World Cup break
Mm,
because it's really, really hard to judge anybody on what last season did. It's really, really hard, especially a guy that you paid $22 million for. So, I think you have to go and say, "All right, last night Miguel Almiron didn't look good. Latte Loft didn't look that great, but also didn't really get much service either. Didn't really have lot of great opportunities. And when he was getting service, like a really hopeful long ball over the top while he's being covered by two guys, one of which literally knows the entire Atlanta playbook. Um, it's just you can't just blame him, right? You got Miggy,
yeah,
like you said, Saba didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, he had a pretty good shot pretty early on, but it was the whole front group just didn't really look
yeah.
together. And I hate that because that same front three, I watched them absolutely dog walk the Red Bulls in the final 25 or so minutes of that game out in Texas.
Yeah, but it's preseason, though.
I get that. I get
No,
that.
no, yeah, I know.
And I guess the saving grace is I could see what they were trying to do, right? So like it wasn't so much that the ideas weren't there. The ideas were there. They just didn't get executed probably the smoothest they should have. But I think once Tata gets this thing going, which I think will be relatively soon, if
Yeah.
they're still not executing by the World Cup, then you have to have a serious conversation.
I mean, tough conversation because he's a club legend. I mean, even in the 2 years that he played with Atlanta United was one of the biggest parts of that MLS Cup winning team in 2018, but that was the risk he took when you brought him in. I mean, he's making how much money is the thing? One of the highest paid players in MLS. Like, it's gonna be a hard conversation because again of the connection he has to this city, of connection he has to this team, the connection he has to Tata Martina. Maybe, like I said, maybe too premature to have this discussion, but as the weeks go on, you can't just look at Miguel Almiron and judge him by this and expect what you saw from him in 2017 and 2018. They're not paying Miguel Almiron to do that. Or I should say, you have to judge him on what he can do today, not what he did almost a decade ago. And as tough as it is to admit, he's definitely not. Anyone will say he's not the player that he was in 2017, 2018. He's much older. He's had much more wear and tear. And this is not me flogging Almiron or anything like that, but I'm just saying at what point do you judge him by the standards you judge every single player? And I'm afraid that the fan base will kind of hold him up as a sacred cow and treat him as sort of an untouchable. Oh, he's Miguel Miron. But you have to judge him by the standard you judge every single player, right? And if he can't produce the way you need him to produce, especially with Tata Martino, like you were saying, in the fold, coach he has a very close relationship with, I don't know, you may need to have a talk because again, that's a DP slot you're keeping reserved. That's a lot of money you're paying for a player that's not performing the way you need him to perform. And the same again goes for Latte Lat. The same goes for Moranchuk. We shouldn't be having this discussion, Tyler, about all three DPs.
I agree.
Not one of them has produced. And yes, 28, 25th, 2025 was an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
Absolute disaster. And you have to see what Tata can do with these three players in 2026. But this is absolutely put up and shut up times. Definitely for Latte Lot. Definitely for Moranchuk. Yes, Miggy may get a little more rope, but after a while, when you kind of judge him by the standards, you judge everybody
I
else.
mean, I think Miggy is gonna be one that's gonna be here. I think he has a longer leash, right? And
Yeah.
I think what you're seeing out of Miggy is, it's close, and it feels like if you can just get right,
Yeah,
then
I
it'll
agree.
happen. Um, I kinda said it last night. One thing I think a lot of people aren't considering or maybe remembering, and I put it in the article, is, Miggy is in a World Cup year, and he kind of got handed some pressure last year, partially of his own making because he came back to Atlanta knowing what that would be. Um, and he gets the captain's armband kind of after Brad or whatever. And he's trying to fight his way into the World Cup with Paraguay.
Yeah,
So he's got a lot going on. And then in the offseason, you know, Atlanta brings back a guy who's basically a father figure to him. They've stayed in touch this whole time. And I think there's a little bit of a sense of I don't want to let this guy down. And
yeah,
then also on top of that, he's being told by that dad figure, all right, this is kind of your baby now.
yeah.
Like we're building this around you. And then you start the season and you want to look good for that World Cup that you finally got into, and it's a lot of crap. It's a
Mhm.
lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And last night it felt like the way he played was almost like he was just overthinking all of that.
There
Now there was
there's
some
one
physicality
yeah,
stuff, but
yeah.
it's just like decision making that just seemed like a split second too late. That's very unlike me.
There was one moment I felt that kinda looked like vintage Megami Room, but we haven't he had a good run, nice run toward goal, and he fed it to Latte Lot, I think. I'll have to double check. I'll just fact check myself, but I looked at that, I came away, and it's like that's like vintage Miggy right there. It really did kinda look like it. You saw shades of what he what he is capable of doing, even though he is older, even though he has more wear on the tires. It was Saba. Saba in the 58th minute. He sprung Saba on a it was a giveaway by Cincinnati. Miggy has the ball, makes a good run. If he's in Saba and Saba just can't finish it. Just wide of goal. And that's the one we talked about earlier. But I looked at it, it's like that's vintage Miguel Roan right there. He
Yeah,
wasn't rewarded for the effort, but we just need to see more of that, and you have to hope sooner or later that starts to click eventually.
yeah, I agree.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
I agree. But I'll throw this back out there just so it doesn't sound like we've dove off the deep end in this after this kind of game.
Yeah,
Um, it is game one.
yeah.
It's game one. I think all the positives though, there are plenty of them. The team had an identity. They just didn't do a good job of maybe showing it to the world, but you
Mhm.
can see what they wanted to do. And that feels a lot more sustainable in terms of like, all right, I can see why I'm okay with giving this team a little more time to figure it out. Whereas last year it was like, what are you showing us
Mhm.
that fans should be happy about? Because
Mhm.
it's not there. Here, you have the benefit of the off season. Everybody's just hyped to get back to the season, and you came out and you had what looked like you knew what you wanted to do, and
Yeah,
that's far enough for now, I guess.
yeah. I'll kinda save this as we kinda wrap up here in a little bit, but, yeah, I had a chance to like I said, talk to NMBI after the match, and he said it kinda feels different. There's a different spirit in the club. There's a different mindset in the club. Of course, 2025 was an absolute disaster. You don't wanna repeat. I kind of feel like based on that, and he also added, the league is a marathon. I mean, we just started as one of 34 matches, 30 matches to go after this. But you kind of get a sense that this team has to learn how to win again. They only won 6 times in 2025. And I feel like if they start losing games right off the bat, it can't be, oh crap, here we go again, 2025 all over again. They have to have that mentality. They have to have those intangibles that say, hey, we took this one on the chin. Hey, we lost to FC Cincinnati. We know we may have it all to do as we go to San Jose, perhaps against Timo Werner on a West Coast trip, on not very little rest, but they're the rigors of travel, the difficulties of travel across the country for non-athletes, even certainly athletes who train all day, but You have to say, "Hey, let's take this one on the chin. It's 1 of 34. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, and let's go again. Let's go again in training. Let's
If we ever make
rally
another
ourselves."
shirt,
Yeah,
that is your quote that's going on it.
go again.
That no, throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
one. That is your quote.
I don't realize do I say it a lot?
Yeah, you don't, but I think it's just such a profound statement that every time you
Uh,
do, it sticks with me. 'Cause you're the only person I
right.
know that says it.
Really?
Yep. Like, I heard it when I was
Right.
young, and
Yeah,
then Sydney, you know?
yeah. No, but, like, yeah, you can't just call the season the wash after one match. Let's see how these go. We knew it was gonna be a tough stretch of matches
Yeah,
to
there's a
start
lot
the
of season
season.
left. I'm good
Yeah,
with this.
yeah. But, yeah, like I said, take this one on the chin. You lost. You kinda stuck with Cincinnati for a while before the dam burst. Take it out of the chin, go again in training, and hopefully get a result, hopefully a win against San Jose on Saturday
Yeah, then come home and then get a win for sure.
against RSL.
Yep.
I think that's it. You
That's
got
it.
anything else to hit on?
That's it. Tomorrow, MLS Monday.
Yep.
Come hang out with us. LAFC, good game. Lots of good games. Nashville
Yeah.
beat the brakes off of New England.
Nashville
So
is dangerous. It's gonna be
yeah,
dangerous.
yes, they are. So we'll be talking about that 9 o'clock tomorrow. So y'all come hang out with us then.
Montreal lost.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Bad.
Yep.
Boy, it's gonna be a long season for them. A very long season. Michael Bradley won his coaching debut, by the way.
I know. It was very telling first day. Sometimes you have like a first day and you're like, I don't know what to think.
Yeah.
Last night, I feel like we learned a lot.
By the way,
We'll talk about tomorrow.
yeah, absolutely. 5-0, by the way. San Diego
Yeah.
just beats the living daylights out of Montreal. Toto Avalos getting sent off in the 50th minute, but the match was partly well in hand by then. And then it's right in Kansas City, another team that nobody has high on their standings. 3-0 loss against San Jose. Daniel Mundi had a brace, Preston Judd scoring the stoppage time of the first half. So San Jose coming off a 3-0 win over Sporting Kansas City, who very well may finish last in the West. But yeah, we'll talk about some of the big matches. As Tyler said, LAFC Inter Miami at the Coliseum, 3-0, and then other big matches around the league. So 9 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. Join us there. If you're watching on YouTube, we say it every time: like, subscribe, share our content, hit the like button, hit the bell as well. That lets you know whenever we stream, wherever we post a video here on YouTube. So thanks so much if you join us live. Thanks so much if you join us after the fact here on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Leave us a review. We read every review. We take your feedback. We prefer 5 stars, but if you don't have 5 stars, rate us anyway. But yeah, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and take us
Yes, indeed.
anywhere yeah, take the audio version of the show anywhere you go. And again, of course, scarvesandspikes.com, your home for Atlanta United news, analysis, and opinion. Patreon.com/scarvesandspikes. Support our coverage. Tyler, where are you on social media?
ATL Pilgrim.
I am SH Rights on X, SH Rights on Blue Sky, Soccer on Instagram and Threads, Scarves, the letter and Spikes on X, Scarves, andspikes.com on Blue Sky, Scarves, and Spikes on Instagram and Threads, Facebook.com/Scarves, and Spikes. We will see you next time, and we will see you for MLS Monday. Take care.
See ya. There's the music.
5-0.
I know. I know. I told you, man, it was very telling last night. LAFC match. I can't wait to talk about and get all the people in chatting about whether Miami's getting special treatment, Messi's getting special treatment with this whole referee thing.
That should be fun.
Yeah. That's gonna
By the way,
station.
it's going to be brought up because it's Lionel Messi. So let's not pretend that
Oh yeah.
the league is or fans are out to get Messi or saber rattling because it's Lionel Messi. I mean, he's a player of his stature is gonna be talked about in that
Yeah.
context. So
Faux show.
yeah. Scoreline prediction for next Saturday. It's San Jose. You want to save that Wednesday?
Oh, I'm saving that one.
I'm just joking. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I thought
I
you
got
say
the
that.
pink.
I thought you said that.